Welcome back into another edition of the Arrowhead Pride Rapid Reaction Show. I am Steven Serda, joined as always by my guy Rocky Magaña. Kramer Sanson in the background helping us keep this thing moving. Kansas City Chiefs fall to the Philadelphia Eagles 21-17. Rocky, this is a really frustrating game. And I want to be clear here out of the gate as we get into all of this, and we'll try to discuss everything and keep it composed after a very frustrating loss for the Kansas City Chiefs. This is a Super Bowl caliber team. Nothing in my mind has changed after this game, going against, in my mind, what I think is the best team in the NFL right now in the Philadelphia Eagles. And this is a game the Chiefs absolutely should have won. And I wanted to start tonight with the defense and how dominant they were and how elite they are and how special they were. And Steve Spagnuolo was calling the game of his life. And we have to start with the offense again, because at the end of the day, Chiefs defense couldn't quite hold on because the offense just could not get it done in the second half. All 17 of their points came in the first half. For a second consecutive game, they have not scored in the second half at all. And it was really highlighted by a fourth quarter MVS drop that would have been a touchdown. That probably would have been the game-winning score for the Kansas City Chiefs. I don't know. It's extremely frustrating at this point. And, I'm watching MVS walk to the locker room right now. I'm sure he's heartbroken because that's a play that he has to make, but it's simply a play that he has not made all year for the Kansas City Chiefs offense. And, coming out of the bye, I still have plenty of question marks about this offense moving forward. We can feel good about the defense tomorrow once this one settles a little bit. But at the end of the day, the Chiefs pass catchers let Patrick Mahomes down tonight in what should have been a Chiefs win over a Super Bowl contending team.
Yeah, I mean, you're paying MVS $11 million this year for him to have 3 targets, 0 catches, and to drop a game-winning touchdown. I'm sorry. He needs to be benched. He doesn't need to see the field anymore. Like, barring injury, I don't care who you put out there. He's not an NFL caliber wide receiver at this point. Like, maybe he was a good deep threat at one point, but his body control is terrible. He doesn't get separation often enough. He got separation there because it was just a bad matchup against a safety. And like, you got to make that play. You're a professional athlete. Like, there is no excuse for it. Like, that's the whole thing. Like, you can be pissed off, but there's no reason even to be pissed off about it, because it's just like you get paid to make that play. Like 100% of the time you have to make that play.
So I'm not going to get on here and do the thing that a lot of fans do, which is like, we're going to just crucify MVS for that drop, and we're going to harass him and trash talk him and do all these horrendous things. That's a brutal play. That cost them the game. Absolutely. But this is on the Chiefs. This is on the Chiefs coaching staff, because we've been talking about it for weeks, Rocky. And it came down to a critical moment of the game where he's supposed to be the guy. You mentioned it. He's making $11 million this season. He had a good postseason last year, but overall wasn't particularly good in the regular season. He's been awful this season. It's been brutally awful for the Chiefs offense this year. And that's just a play that you're paying him to make. He has to come up with that. And he knows that. But at the end of the day, he continues to let you down week after week. And it's so frustrating when you see what Rashee Rice does when he gets the ball. We saw glimpses of Kadarius Toney when he's healthy and when they're willing to utilize him and give him opportunities. Like, he looked good tonight. And Travis Kelce, we'll get to him. He had one of the worst games I've ever seen him play tonight. But MVS, in a critical moment of the game, that's where Patrick Mahomes goes, and he just lets you down again. You mentioned his body control. Like, yeah, he's fast. He can get downfield. He's got to have the worst body control of any wide receiver in the NFL. I talked about it last year a lot. I've talked about it a ton this year. Every time we see Patrick Mahomes throw the ball to him and we see all these balls fall incomplete when they're thrown at MVS, it's because he doesn't go after the football, or he drops the football in situations like this. He did it during his time with the Packers. I can think of a handful of times where he was streaking wide open down the field and just dropped a pass from Aaron Rodgers. Like, this is who he is as a player. And it's obviously it's on him. He has to make that play. But the Chiefs deserve to lose this football game with the way they played offensively in the second half. And I think the Chiefs as a coaching staff, like you just spent 15 days preparing for this game. And MVS is still a guy who's playing like 75 to 80% of the offensive snaps. Like, why is he out there so much at this point? Because he's a liability just as much as like Sky Moore doesn't even get targets. So like he's just out there running around, but he's not a liability because he doesn't even get looks. Like MVS gets looks every week and he continues to not make plays when he gets the opportunity.
Well, on top of that, you're right. Okay, here's the deal. The Chiefs lost because MVS dropped that pass. The Chiefs also lost because Justin Watson dropped maybe 5 passes today, including one on 4th down that went off his hands that would have kept the game alive. They lost because Travis Kelce fumbled in the red zone and had multiple drops. And we'll get to Travis Kelce, but the Chiefs lost this game because Patrick Mahomes was out there throwing dimes and they just couldn't catch anything today. Like they just kept, it was like the week 1 all over again, where it was just drop after drop after drop. The only 2 positives in the receiving game were Rashee Rice and Kadarius Toney, and both of them catch the ball within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage every single time, because especially Rashee Rice, he's been on the only bright spot in the receiving core consistently this season, and the coaching staff doesn't trust him to run further than 5 yards down the field. This is on Andy Reid, and it's on Brett Veach. Brett Veach is the one that gave MVS $11 million when he's never had over 600 yards receiving in a season in his entire career. This is on Brett Veach for going into the season and thinking that he had enough with Justin Watson and MVS as his starting wide receivers outside, and then Rashee Rice and Sky Moore in the slot. And we all drank the Kool-Aid in the preseason, and we thought, oh man, we got all these guys and we're going to be great. And oh man, all you got to do is Patrick Mahomes can elevate anybody. Patrick Mahomes can put the ball in the hands of anybody in any situation. But in the rain, you have an entire receiving core with questionable hands. And in the rain, they didn't make plays. It's frustrating to watch a generational talent like Patrick Mahomes be wasted with this wide receiving core. And I'm not mad because this isn't new. We've been watching this all season long. And if it was going to get better, it would have got better out of the break. Like you said, when they had 2 weeks off, they came out with a decent game plan. They schemed up plays. Like it's not the play calling. It's the talent of the receivers. It's the talent level on this team on the offense. That's the problem.
No. And we talked all offseason about this group, and we were all really excited. But I mean, we do that all across the NFL because the unknown in the NFL is exciting. Like projection in the NFL is exciting. Well, if this guy pans out, if he lives up to all of his athletic ability and it all works out, like it'll all be great. And he'll become a player for this offense. And so, like, I'm not going to sit here and say we fell for it. Like, we were just doing what everybody does. And we were looking at the upside and saying, well, look at what Mahomes did with this wide receiver group last year. Like, they had one of the most efficient offenses in NFL history. And this season, it just hasn't been stable. Like, it's still been efficient for the most part. They just make mistakes, and the mistakes pile up and pile up and pile up. And most of the time against inferior football teams, when the defense is playing at this elite, insane level, you can still win a lot of football games that way. But when you play good teams and you make mistakes like that and you let them pile up and pile up and pile up, that's a recipe to lose a football game. And that's exactly what happened tonight. Like, the first half was almost flawless, aside from a bad Patrick Mahomes interception in the red zone, which was another just bad Mahomes interception, which has become a weekly thing now. But they were at least moving the football and looking good offensively. And then tonight they're moving the ball and it looks like it's playing back into their favor. And then Travis Kelce has a red zone fumble that is critical and winds up being another deciding factor in this game that might wind up losing some attention because of the MVS drop. And it absolutely shouldn't. Travis Kelce also on that drive on 3rd and 2, just brutal drop that he absolutely should have caught. And then Mahomes goes back to him on back-to-back plays after that, and he makes the receptions and they keep the ball moving, and then that leads to the MVS thing. But like, Travis Kelce was just bad tonight, Rocky. And this is a future Hall of Famer, and obviously this is a big time game, but I don't know what was going on with Travis Kelce tonight. It just didn't seem like he brought his A game to this contest. And it's really frustrating because he's supposed to be the one thing that we can lean on in this offense, in this group of pass catchers, because there's just nobody else right now. And you mentioned it, Justin Watson getting double-digit targets is insane. I don't know what's going on there. I understand that they're not willing to deploy Rashee Rice fully yet. Like, they don't believe in his ability as a route runner just yet. They don't want to give him this long extended route tree and put him out there. So they're kind of utilizing him in different ways with the short screen passes and the intermediate stuff that gives him the ability to create after the catch, because that's what he's really good at. But I was just hoping out of the bye we were going to see a lot more stuff for him. And we saw some of it for Tony tonight. So you enjoy seeing that offensively. But I really thought Rashee Rice was going to be a bigger part of this game plan tonight, because MVS and Justin Watson and Sky Moore just can't be it moving forward. This can't be what you go into the playoffs with and cross your fingers and hope they figure it out. Because we're at a point in the season where, yeah, maybe they'll get a little bit better. Maybe they'll get a little bit more consistent. But I don't have faith in any of those dudes making plays in the postseason when it really matters. Like, Rashee Rice has at least shown a level of athleticism that none of these guys have. And that's something that you can bank on when you got to play against good teams, when you got to play against other teams that have the athletic horses to keep up with you and to give you problems. It's just really frustrating because this is a game they should have won. And this is a game where they went toe-to-toe with the best team in the NFL. And they should have gotten a win on Monday Night Football at home, but instead they fall 21-17 because the offense just can't get anything done in the second half.
And like, here's the thing too, is the defense is awesome because the Chiefs have invested so many resources in the defense and recently in the draft. They drafted 5 defensive backs, last year. They've drafted back-to-back edge rushers in the first round. But that being said, it's not like they haven't invested resources in the wide receivers. We have 2 second-round picks in this wide receiver core. We have a former first-round pick in Kadarius Toney that we traded for. We have, like we said, $11 million for Sky Moore. It's such a fine needle you have to thread of balancing, building a defense on one side that was horrible. Because before, when Mahomes was lighting it up and we had Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce and Sammy Watkins were putting up points, we couldn't stop anybody. And so we said, okay, we got to build up the defense because we can't just make Mahomes put up 40 points every single game. And so then we invest all these resources in the defense, and it's just gone off kilter the other way. It's such a balancing act that Veach just hasn't quite. He's figured it out because he won 2 Super Bowls. Let's not get it twisted. The Chiefs still are 7-3. In control of their division. They're going to make the playoffs. There's a lot of fan bases out there with way, way worse teams. Like, we are definitely talking first world problems of the NFL here as Chiefs fans. But also, when you have a quarterback like Patrick Mahomes, like when Brady had in the Patriots, like your Super Bowl window is every year that they're in their prime. And every year that you're not maximizing that, you're throwing away the opportunity to go get another Lombardi. And there's only, let's be honest, 5 teams maybe in the league that have legitimate shots of winning the Super Bowl each year. And the Chiefs are one of those 5 teams every single year. And they're wasting that opportunity this year. And that's that's the sad part is that it was such and we'll get to the defense, but it was such an excellent performance by Steve Spagnuolo and the Chiefs defense in this game against an electric offense, right? And so, you see people out there and they say, well, Kelce had a touchdown. It's true. He did have a touchdown, and that was a great play, and that was awesome. And he did catch, over half of his targets, I guess. But that for Kelce, that's not good. He's a Hall of Famer. Like that's the thing. Yeah. It's like you don't judge Kelce on the same scale that you judge Justin Watson, because Kelce's the Hall of Famer. He's a leader in your offense. He's the guy that you're counting on to make the plays and not put the ball on the ground in crucial situations.
And I think we have the fumble. If you want to pull that up, Kramer, because I want to talk about that for a second, because this was when in the second half where it seemed like we were in. It was still in the Chiefs' favor, and it feels like they're driving now, and they got an opportunity to make something happen. And then the Kelce fumble, and after that, it's just all downhill. Even after the Kelce fumble, they get a chance immediately following that. Mahomes finds Justin Watson on that absolutely beautiful dime, just perfect pass. It was his best throw of the entire night to find Justin Watson on that thing. But then they can't stay on the field, and they wind up with a 4th and short, and they elect to punt and give the ball back to the Eagles, up 17-14, and the Eagles get all of those yards back after the punt in 2 plays. And then Jalen Hurts finds Devontae Smith deep down the field. He beat Mike Edwards, and they get to the 1-yard line, and then easy tush push inside the 1 for a touchdown to take the lead. And it's just frustrating. And I hope that this is something where, coming out of the bye, we spent just so much time talking about Andy Reid and all the adjustments and everything that he does during a bye week to make him so successful and to, make the Chiefs record so stellar coming out of a bye. This one was really frustrating because they had the opportunity to win this game. They had the opportunity to tie the Eagles for the best record in football and to be sitting easily and comfortably atop the AFC. And I don't think nothing changed about my opinion of this team in this game. They're still a Super Bowl contender. They're still the best team in the AFC. It's just that I don't know if the answers are coming offensively. And the biggest issue right now is that they seem to be competent in the first half when Andy's got the opening script, and when defenses are trying to adjust to what they're putting out there on the field in the first half, they can score points. But then the talent deficiency at wide receiver catches up to them in the second half. And once these defenses make adjustments, they just can't score points. They can't put it together consistently enough to find the end zone in the second half. And that's when you win games. And the defense is exceptional as they have been all season long. I already mentioned it. Like when you go up against a team like the Eagles, you just can't hold up forever, and they're going to get you. They're too talented. And that's even on a night when AJ Brown did absolutely nothing for the Eagles offensively. Jalen Hurts had 150 yards, and I'm pretty sure most of that came in the second half. AJ Brown had 1 catch for 8 yards tonight, Rocky. AJ Brown is maybe the most physically gifted wide receiver in football right now, and they totally shut him out in this game. That's how good the Chiefs defense is, but the Eagles just have too many playmakers, and DeAndre Swift wound up having a monster game in the absence of AJ Brown, and he came up with a huge play on that drive to get them close to midfield that set up the shot to Devontae Smith, who had a nice game tonight as well. Like, they're just too talented of a team for it to be acceptable for your offense not to score a single point in the second half of a game. Like, it just cannot happen. And there's a long way to go. The Chiefs have a favorable schedule, and they have some matchups on their schedule defensively that should set up nice for the offense and should set up nice for the pass catchers to try to get some confidence going and get some things working. But I just know that, come next week, we got Thanksgiving this week. They got the Raiders on Sunday. It's a short week turnaround, and, the Raiders fired their head coach and they're playing better right now, but you should still dominate the Raiders. Like, the Raiders defense should not give you any issues offensively on Sunday afternoon. So hopefully that's an opportunity for them to get the offense going again, because it's getting really, really frustrating. But all we can do is hope that they find a way to make improvements and hope that they try to put their best personnel out on the field, because I'm still questioning whether or not they're doing that, because I don't believe they are. I don't believe Justin Watson getting double-digit targets is setting yourself up for success. I don't believe MVS playing 75 to 85% of the offensive snaps is setting you up for success. I understand that Rashee Rice is raw and still a work in progress, but he obviously brings much more to the table than MVS does at this point. I need to see more of him. I want to see Kadarius Toney more involved in the offense. And, Andy Reid supposedly still believes in Sky Moore, so they're probably going to keep trotting him out there, but they got Richie James back. They could activate him at any time. Like, I just want to see them try some other things out, because obviously this isn't working, because at the end of the day, what should have been an incredible Chiefs win is just more of the same frustrating behavior. And it's why we're sitting here having this super serious, like upsetting conversation instead of celebrating another Chiefs win over the Eagles.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the super frustrating part, because like you said, they manned up L'Jarius Sneed on AJ Brown. Like, they had him travel and cover AJ Brown all night long on that assignment. And Spagnuolo talked earlier this week about how sometimes Sneed goes a little too high in his strike at the line of scrimmage when he plays press man, and so did Dave Merritt. And they said, listen, those hands to the face penalties are the cost of doing business. And they are the cost of doing business, because guess what? I'll take that one hands to the face penalty if you're going to tell me that you're going to hold AJ Brown to 1 catch and 8 yards. Like L'Jarius Sneed
All
was
day.
awesome all day. Lockdown corner. And this isn't the first time this year. He locked down Justin Jefferson also. Like, let's start talking about L'Jarius Sneed as a legitimate press corner, like one of the best legitimate press cornerbacks in the league. And I'm done being negative about this game, because we know what the Chiefs offense is. We know that the coaching staff should have done a better job. And I'm with you on the wide receivers, because at this point, I don't think we need an X or a Z receiver. Just give me Kadarius Toney, Richie James, and Rashee Rice as our 3 wide receivers on the field at all times, and get creative, get funky with it, do something to just scheme something up, and let's just give it. What's the worst that's gonna happen? Andy Reid, what, they're gonna fumble the ball? That's the whole thing. Is the Chiefs are so used to, I think the coaching staff too are so used to the offense being the reason why they win games, that they can't understand that all they have to do is not lose the game on offense. Just move the ball 4 yards a play, and then keep your defense out of bad field position. The thing that's low key not being talked about is that Tommy Townsend had a really bad day. It wasn't that the Chiefs weren't moving the ball, is that they were giving the Eagles good field position and putting their defense in a bad position also, and they were losing the field position battle all day long. So then the Chiefs defense was playing with a shorter field than the Eagles defense was, and they were still shutting them down until you get to the end, where you're like, how many times can you put somebody behind the 8 ball before finally something breaks through? This is going to sound dumb, but the offense isn't fair to the defense. On this team, it's just not fair to be a defender on this team with this offense currently.
And you talked about how, you're wasting a Super Bowl window here. And this is something that Nate Christensen's pointed out, one of our contributors at arrowheadpride.com. I highly encourage you to check out his work. He's doing spectacular stuff for us at arrowheadpride.com. But, he's talked about this Chiefs wide receiver core and how it's not too dissimilar to last year's Packers. And the Green Bay Packers right now have one of the youngest teams in the entire NFL. And the Chiefs have a young wide receiver core, an unproven wide receiver core. The only issue really is that your veterans are Justin Watson and MVS. And Justin Watson's fine. I don't mean to trash Justin Watson. Justin Watson is a fine wide receiver who has actually given the Chiefs a lot and been a really good value for them overall. It's just that Justin Watson should be your 4th or 5th option. MVS should be your 4th or 5th option. And they're getting deployed like they're 2nd and 3rd option players. And that's really the biggest issue here, is that the Chiefs don't have enough faith in Toney to stay healthy, I'm assuming. And they don't have enough faith in Rashee Rice right now as a young player, as a rookie player, to step in and truly be get a number 1 wide receiver type of workload and get that much run and get the expanded route tree and everything that comes with all of that stuff. So they're deploying these guys each and every week. And then, Sky Moore just hasn't taken that jump at all. And that's how you wind up with an offense that is really frustrating to watch. And what's more upsetting when you think about this in the grand scheme of things, if they don't get this thing figured out, and I think to what you saw in the first half, Like that should be them trying to figure it out moving forward. Run the ball, creatively run the ball too. Andy Reid against the best run defense in the NFL. That's what the Eagles have been this season. In the first half, Isaiah Pacheco ripping off long runs, running hard, up the middle, the offensive line's blocking great, doing creative run designs with Kadarius Toney and getting other guys involved and rushing all over the Eagles' run defense has been spectacular all season. And then in the second half, it wasn't quite as effective because the defense adjusted. And to Andy Reid's credit, I don't think the Eagles were prepared for the Chiefs to run the ball that much in the first half. Like they just simply weren't ready for it because the Chiefs never do that. So why would they? And that was like a bye week adjustment, I think, for Andy Reid. Like attack them in the run game, get creative, give them creative looks and give them complicated looks to free up some running lanes and get those guys out into space. And it was really effective in the first half. And it opened things up and made the passing game easier. In the second half, after the Eagles adjusted, they didn't have an answer for it because they can't throw the football. And that's what's so upsetting, because when you start talking about the defense and the elite level that they're playing at right now, and this defense is elite, like elite. That's how good this defense is. This is a Super Bowl caliber defense, but the Chiefs are going to have to make some tough decisions on that side of the ball this offseason. So this might be the best version of this defense that we ever get. And I don't want them to waste this window right now, Rocky. That's what I'm scared of, because for the first time in forever, they have a truly elite NFL defense, a defense that can win on every single level, a defense that can win you football games, that can get you to a Super Bowl. It's that damn good. And I don't know if it's ever going to be as good as it is this season past this year, because they've got to make some difficult cap decisions this offseason. So they just got to get something figured out. Give me more of what you did in the first half and expand on that. Go from there. Don't just keep going back to, okay, well, this isn't working anymore, so we're just going to try MVS out there. We're going to try Justin Watson out there. We're going to just do what we always do, because that's obviously not working. You got back-to-back games with no points in the second half now.
I'm glad you mentioned the offseason decisions that need to be made on defense, because I was writing notes for my article at Pride for tomorrow morning, and I wrote down that this might be the best defense that the Chiefs have had since Derek Thomas, number 58, was getting after the quarterback. And it might be the only year that they have it because of the contract situations on so many crucial players. Drew Tranquil's on a 1-year deal. Willie Gay's a free agent. Chris Jones' contract is up. Mike Dana's contract is up. Right? Like there's some
Snead's
crucial. Snead's a free agent. There are some crucial contributors whose contracts are coming up. Mike Edwards. Yeah, like you're not going to be able to resign everybody when you're paying Patrick Mahomes the money that you're paying him, and you're not going to be able to pay these guys the money that they're going to earn by playing on the best defense in football this year. And so this might be your 1-year deal, like you said. And so to that point, Rashee Rice, at this point, what's the worst that's going to happen? Is he going to run the wrong route? They're already doing that. Is he not going to come back to the football? They're already doing that. Is he going to drop the ball? They're already doing that. Is he going to fumble it? They're already like anything that he could do to screw up, they're already doing in spades, man. So you might as well at least bank on the side of like the explosive athleticism and the fact that he's a freight train to bring down when he gets the ball in his hands, and just see what he can do down the field. That's the whole thing. Is we haven't even seen it this year, Steven. Like how do you know if you don't try it? Like it's like the ultimate peer pressure thing that like people did in high school. Like, well, how do you know it's not good if you haven't ever tried it? You want to drink, Steven? Yeah. How do you know if you never tried it? You don't know if you don't like it. Like Andy Reid, how do you know you don't like Rashee Rice on the outside? You never actually tried it in a game. Like, just try it, Andy.
And I mean, let's try something with him besides, just a dump off or a bubble screen, or it seems like a lot of the times too, it's like, have him run downfield like 8 yards and stop and just find a gap and sit in that gap instead of like actually like running a route and trying to get open and see what he can do and man on man. And like, can we just get a quick slant to Rashee Rice and see what he can do when he's moving full speed and a defender tries to tackle him? Like, that's all I want to see. I just want to know what that looks like, because it sounds like it would be a lot of fun. But okay, we just spent almost 30 minutes complaining about the offense. We have to give the defense its credit, because Man, that was a defensive winning performance that they put together. That was against a Super Bowl caliber opponent. Man, were they dominant, especially in the first half. And, as the game wears on, you make adjustments, you get worn down. And so, they gave up points in the second half. That's inevitable against a team like the Eagles, like I've already mentioned here tonight. But man, in the first half, they sacked Jalen Hurts 5 times. Chris Jones is absolutely dominant. L'Jarius Sneed just totally locking up A.J. Brown. Trent McDuffie flying all over the place. Spags is totally dialed in and just blitzing the hell out of them. And the secondary is so good at locking up these wide receivers that they're bringing all this pressure and bringing all this heat on Jalen Hurts. And the Eagles didn't have an adjustment for it. And to their credit, they did adjust to it in the second half. Their adjustment to it in the second half was Jalen Hurts get the snap and take off. He did that multiple times in the second half, set up his touchdown run in the first half. Like, that was their answer to it, Rocky. It was get the ball out as fast as possible because Spags is bringing the heat and we're not slowing it down enough to give Jalen Hurts a chance. And so the defensive line was totally dominant in the first half of this game. Their corners were totally dominant. Chris Jones was just an absolute game wrecker in the first half. And then in the second half, it was a lot more Hurts design runs, a lot of quick stuff to DeAndre Swift to just get the ball out of his hands. And they made that adjustment, and it was effective for the most part. The Chiefs missed some tackles in the second half that led to some big plays too. But overall, I'm not even going to focus on anything that they did in the second half because none of this is on the defense. The defense absolutely did enough for them to win this football game tonight. They went toe-to-toe against the best offensive line in the NFL, against one of the most talented offenses across the entire league outside of maybe the San Francisco 49ers. The Eagles are probably the best unit in the league. And they totally put the clamps on them tonight. Like, this was another elite caliber performance from the Kansas City Chiefs defense. So anybody who is trying to question anything that this defense has done this season, or anybody who is trying to question who they played and whatnot, like, there is no questioning it anymore. Their defense is elite. This is a special group. And they did everything within their power to try to win the football game tonight, but the offense just let them down.
Well, especially, the offense let them down. Like you talk about the second half and how they can't be blamed for it. I mean, we're talking about 4 plays, 22 yards punt, 3 plays, 3 yards punt, 12 plays, 65 yards, but then a fumble, 6 plays, 24 yards punt. And then you got 5 plays, 25 yards punt, or 3 plays, -2 yards punt. And then 9 plays, 25 yards, and you turn it over on downs. They were put in terrible situations the entire second half, and so that's not on them. What is on them is the fact that Trent McDuffie might be the most dangerous defensive back in the NFL when you consider the entire package of everything he offers. Like, he can cover. He is angry in run defense and in tackling. Like, there was that one play when he chased down a guy and he flipped him over and smashed and basically one hand body slammed him.
It was Swift. It would have been a touchdown.
Yeah, Swift. Yeah, he saved the touchdown. Yeah, he saved the Swift touchdown. He was so good at blitzing off the edge today that they were sliding protection to him. That George Karlaftis sack was because they were sliding protection to stop Trent McDuffie, and then he still forced Jalen Hurts up the middle and collapsed the pocket enough that he tried to go up the middle to where George Karlaftis was just free, right? On his first sack, he blitzes, gets knocked down on the ground, rolls over, crawls back up to his feet, and then sacks the quarterback. Like the tenacity that he plays with is awesome. Like Trent McDuffie, it is one of the best defensive backs in the NFL, if not that's why I say he's probably the most dangerous defensive back because of everything that he offers. L'Jarius Sneed, we already talked about, consistently is locking down number 1 wide receivers and just erasing them out of the game. We're talking about this front 4 is getting pressure against the best offensive line in the NFL. And then on top of that, Steve Spagnuolo is calling an awesome game plan, just the most exotic blitz packages on first and second down to keep them, for the most part, out of the tush push, except for in the second half. They got there a couple of times, like we already talked about, when they started just being on the field for a long time. But Spagnuolo called an awesome game. The secondary, Dave Merritt does not get the credit that he deserves. He had 5 rookie defensive backs last year, won the Super Bowl. This year, he has a second year with them, and he is developing them into a mindset of basically you lock everybody down on the field. The reason why Spags can just go, hell bent, pin your ears back, psychopathic blitz packages on first and second down is because on the outside, he knows that the defensive backs are going to hold up. Like you see all the time. So in the last week's game, Broncos versus Bills, right? The Bills tried calling cover 0 back-to-back plays, right? What happened on the second play? Russ just tossed it up over the top because their secondary was completely burnt, right? Like the reason why Spags can blitz the way he does is because the secondary is so solid and they play so sound, and they can play press man because they have that size on the outside with Joshua Williams. You have L'Jarius Sneed, like we've already talked about. And even they're bringing down their safeties. They're playing Justin Reed, and they had Chamari Connor playing on the line of scrimmage press man coverage today, right? And so, I mean, you can't say enough about this entire defensive coaching staff and the team that they put together. You have Drew Tranquil stepping in for Nick Bolton, played awesome. Willie Gay played awesome. Leo Chenal played awesome. Like everybody, it's nothing but kudos on the defense across the board. And Chris Jones dominated.
Yeah, it's when you give a defensive play caller like Steve Spagnuolo this kind of versatility on the defensive side of the ball, like it's almost unfair at times because of the way he can draw up pressure, and that's always been his thing. And it's like the scheme doesn't always work great because he doesn't always have the personnel that can do everything he needs them to do for it to work. But when he does have the personnel to pull that off, this is the version that you get of it. And it's absolutely insane. And it's crazy just how everything works together. Like you were talking about, Rocky, like Chris Jones is obviously incredible and a dominant player. And he was a total game wrecker tonight. But he draws so much coverage sometimes and so many offensive linemen that's helped free up Mike Dana and Charles Omenihu and George Karlaftis, who had impact plays tonight. And that helps all of those guys eat because Chris Jones is drawing so much attention. But also what helps them get pressure and what helps them create those blitzes is because that secondary is so hard to win against. And then they're so good at the middle level too with their linebackers, even without Nick Bolton. And I think they could be better when Nick Bolton's available and back in the lineup because Drew Tranquil's been awesome. Leo Chenal has been great this season when they've had to lean on him. He's not a perfect all-around linebacker, but he's really good at what they deploy him for. And I think the same can be said about rookie Chamari Connor, who's had some moments and got some opportunities in this defense. Like the defense is really, really good. And the defense, when it's all said and done, this defense can go win you a Super Bowl. Can the offense just be reliable? Like, can they just, at the end of the game, when you need something to happen, and, Patrick Mahomes deserves criticism too this season because he's made some bad decisions. That first half pick was not a great throw by Patrick Mahomes. He's had a lot of those this year. But also, I think his down play is a function of how much everybody else is struggling to get open, to be where they're supposed to be, when we talk about this unspoken thing where like Mahomes just seems to know where Kelce's going to go, like they kind of communicate that stuff. And we've seen him in recent weeks where he puts a football in a certain spot because he thinks that's where the wide receiver is going to go. And then the wide receiver doesn't go to that spot. Like it's all of that communication that they're still trying to process. They're still trying to get through and they're still trying to figure it out. And then at the end of the day, Travis Kelce is, compared to what he normally does, been a little down this year. And he's been banged up too. He was limping around tonight too. And he hasn't been on the injury report, but Travis Kelce's 34 years old. Like it's inevitable that he's going to slow down. And I think that he's been banged up this year and he's probably slowed down just a little bit. He's still elite. He's still an incredible tight end. But when he's not your one-on-one matchup nightmare, totally unguardable, unstoppable tight end, when that tight end loses half a step, it makes everything else harder. And I think it's just making everything else harder right now that they don't have anybody else they can rely on, especially not when Travis Kelce plays like he played tonight.
Well, yeah, especially when we consider the fact that he's drawing double and triple coverage, most of the time because they know that nobody else is going to get separation. Like they do not opposing defenses do not respect the Chiefs receivers outside of Travis Kelce. Their entire game plan is to stop Travis Kelce and then figure out the rest. That's the entire game plan, and it works because you take Travis Kelce out of this offense, and they lose their rhythm. Mahomes tries to force it. He shouldn't have thrown that pick in the first half, but I think to an extent, he's also like my opportunities for a play like this are few and far between. If I see a glimmer of an opening, I'm going for it. And so his margin for error has never been smaller. Like everybody talks about Jet Chip Wasp in the first Super Bowl, right? That pass to Tyreek Hill that was awesome. He underthrew that pass, right? But Tyreek Hill was just so open, it didn't matter, right? Not
Yeah.
every pass is going to be up perfectly on the money, and he had some passes that were perfectly on the money tonight too. And besides that interception, to say he has no margin for error right now.
Yeah, I totally agree, and it's frustrating even when he is putting the ball in the perfect spot. The wide receivers are making mistakes, or they can't hang on to it, or it's drop passes, or whatever. And so it's just all compounding into this very frustrating product right now for the Kansas City Chiefs. But they're 7-3 right now. They're still the number one seed in the AFC, even with this loss to an NFC team in the Philadelphia Eagles. And before we get out of here, before we take a look at some comments, I just want to look at the rest of their schedule. And they've got the Raiders coming up this Sunday. Then they take on the Green Bay Packers, Buffalo Bills, New England Patriots, Raiders again, Bengals, Chargers. So you've got the Raiders, obviously very beatable team. Raiders tend to play the Chiefs pretty tough. All those games seem to be closer than they ever should be, but should win that football game. Then you got the Green Bay Packers. The Green Bay Packers are bad. You should absolutely dominate the Green Bay Packers, even though that's a road game. Then you have the Buffalo Bills, who, while still a talented team, the Bills are basically on life support for the postseason right now. And so they're going to be a desperate team. They're probably going to give you some issues, but you could still easily beat the Buffalo Bills. That defense also is falling apart right now due to injury. The New England Patriots, one of the worst teams in the NFL. Raiders again, Bengals without Joe Burrow. Who knows what they're going to look like by then. And then the Los Angeles Chargers, who are pretty much guaranteed to be looking for a new head coach by the final week of the regular season. So it's not all doom and gloom. I think there's a scenario here where the Chiefs could easily just run the table and coast to a first round bye in the playoffs. This is a rough loss. This is something that's going to linger because they absolutely should have won this game. But hopefully this is kind of a vaulting point for them offensively moving forward the rest of the season. And maybe it's the kickstart that they really need to get some things figured out and hopefully start putting together some offensive performances that at least look functional and reliable, at least a little bit.
Yeah, 100%. And they should run the table because the Bengals don't have Joe Burrow, and the Bills just fired their offensive coordinator because they didn't want to fire their head coach. Let's be honest. And so the rest of the schedule isn't difficult. If the Chiefs lose next week to the Raiders, then break glass in case of emergency and start worrying at that point because they have no business losing to that horrible Raiders team this year either. The Chiefs should run the table the rest of the way. Whether or not they can make it through the playoffs against a team like the Ravens, that remains to be seen, and that we'll cross that bridge when we get there. But the Chiefs had a chance and should have won a game against a 9-1 Eagles team. Not many teams have the opportunity for Marquez Valdez-Scantling to drop the game-winning touchdown against the Eagles. The Eagles are a really good team, right? So it's not like we went out and we lost to the Panthers today, right? So let's not get that twisted. We lost to a very good team. The problem is that this is the team that we know we're going to have to beat most likely to get to where we expect to be this season. And so that's why it hurts so much.
Yeah, it's a bummer, but we'll move on. It's a lot of football left to be played, a lot of things left to be decided in this NFL year, and the Chiefs are still one of the very best teams across the entire NFL. If you listen to us on the podcast, I want to remind you, stick around. We'll have all the post game press conferences available for you there. Kramer, do we have any comments before we get out of here and wrap this thing up? Nothing to do with the refs. Bad calls are made for and against every team. Offense was just horrible. It's becoming the norm. Mahomes' lack of trust in his receivers is making him look mediocre. Yeah, I mean, I'm never going to blame referees for anything, even though they probably deserve it sometime. It's just not a conversation I'm interested in having. It is the way it is in the NFL as far as that stuff goes. But yeah, it's an issue. I think Mahomes doesn't trust a lot of these guys. I think a lot of these guys aren't in the right spots sometimes. A lot of them are struggling to get open, and it's all just working against the Chiefs collectively right now.
100% it's working with the Chiefs collectively right now. And no, like blaming the refs, I think, in my opinion, is a loser mentality. Like you should go out and win the game, and it shouldn't come down to one play. Like you shouldn't let it shouldn't be close enough that the refs have the ability to change the outcome with one play. And on top of that, let's be honest, there were a lot of penalties that the Chiefs deserved. The offensive tackles, like, it's not getting too much run, but the offensive tackles have been horrible the last few weeks. Like, Donovan Smith is not playing well. Jawan Taylor continues to draw penalties. And so the tackles are an issue right now for the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, and that's been getting worse lately too, and that's not getting talked about enough. So I'm glad you mentioned that. So proud of our defense. They showed the world who they are. Receivers, it's more than the drops. The receiver room lacks route running IQ and maybe football IQ in the sense of the profession. I mean, I just think that the guys that they really want to lean on are really young, and like Sky Moore just isn't where they were hoping he would be at this season. I think Rashee Rice is just a rookie, and they're really bringing him along slow. I don't know if they ever believed they were going to get anything out of Justin Ross. That's not going to happen this season now, or ever maybe. And then I think that they just thought that, a second year in this offense, maybe MVS and Watson could give them a little bit more than they got from them last season. And I think we kind of saw what the max out for those dudes is last year. And this year it's kind of blown up in their faces, even though, Justin Watson, to his credit, makes plays and has a couple of nice plays a game. But that's exactly what his role should be. He should only get like 3-4 targets a game, have an opportunity to make a couple big plays. That's exactly what Justin Watson's role should be. He should not be getting 11 targets, and he got 11 targets tonight. That's not a good spot to be in if you're the Chiefs.
Well, and to the Chiefs' credit, I don't think this receiving room was plan A or plan B. Like, if we think back to the offseason, there was a lot of wide receivers that they were rumored to be interested in that they tried to go for. And there was rumor that they were trying to trade up at the draft and that they couldn't get moved up. And so I don't necessarily think that Rashee Rice may have even been their first or second pick at wide receiver in the draft. There's a lot of buzz around them and Zay Flowers, if you remember, leading up to the draft. And if the Chiefs have Zay Flowers on this team, we're talking about an entirely different looking offense. And then also, let's not forget that their whole free agent plans were held hostage by the Chris Jones situation the entire offseason. They couldn't go out and try to sign a top dollar wide receiver because they didn't know what was going to happen with Chris Jones, and they didn't have any way to restructure any sort of money to free it up to go out and get a guy. And so with that, I don't think that was the plan. That this isn't the plan that they were going with, and they tried to sell us that Kadarius Toney was the first was wide receiver one after the fact, so that we wouldn't panic. But I mean, honestly, this is plan C if we're being honest as far as the wide receiver room goes, and it isn't good enough. And I think they honestly know that. If they're being honest, they're not going to tell us that, but they know the talent level they have in that room right now.
Yeah, and the best thing we can hope for this season is that they find a way to improve. That's where you're at. Barring a talented veteran getting released or something, and the Chiefs being able to go sign him, there's no other options coming through the door this late in the season. So They still got a lot of work to do offensively. I hope they do find a way to get things figured out, because that defense can take you where you want to go. And it is more than proven that at this point in the season. But again, the Kansas City Chiefs fall 21-17 to the Philadelphia Eagles. They are now 7-3 on the season. Quick turnaround as they take on the Las Vegas Raiders on Sunday. It is Thanksgiving, so I want to remind you guys here on the Arrowhead Pride Podcast Network, we'll still have daily shows for you. Everything's going to be coming in a little bit earlier this week. We'll still have an Arrowhead Pride report for you tomorrow and Wednesday before we go quiet on those, just to enjoy Thanksgiving and watch some football and try to forget this tough loss for the Kansas City Chiefs. Please follow Rocky Magaña on Twitter at Rocky Magaña. I'm Steven Serda, where you can find me. You can follow Kramer at Kramer Talks. It's a frustrating loss. We'll put it behind us. Hopefully they get another opportunity to see the Eagles later this year and another Super Bowl, but the Chiefs still got a lot of things to improve before they get to that point in the season. We will talk to you guys later on this week on the Arrowhead Pride Podcast Network.